Joseph Hogue here with another video on the Let's Talk Money YouTube channel. I want to welcome all our subscribers and thank you for taking a part of your day to be here. If you're not part of that community yet, just click that little red subscribe button. It's free and you'll never miss an episode. Now, if you've been following the channel, you know I'm a huge fan of real estate investing. I've been an investor since getting out of the Marine Corps in 2001, and I truly believe that no other asset has as much potential to create that real legacy wealth. Now, I've flipped houses and I've held rentals as a buy and hold strategy, but there's one property investment that I haven't tried, and that's real estate wholesaling. So I wanted to reach out to an expert in wholesaling properties to get her insight into the strategy. Sharon Vornholt has been investing in real estate in Louisville, Kentucky since 1998. She's a full-time investor, blogger, real estate coach, and runs the Let's Talk Real Estate Investing podcast. Now, Sharon's a regular contributor to REI Wealth Magazine and the Bigger Pockets blog with a special expertise in wholesaling. So Sharon, thanks for being with us and offering to share your insight into wholesaling real estate.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Sure. Now, like I said, I've flipped houses and I've held rentals, but I've never really tried that real estate wholesaling strategy. What is wholesaling and how is it different from some of those other strategies that you hear about?
Well, I like to tell people I'm an accidental wholesaler because I invested for 10 years. And so I did the same thing you did, rentals. I loved rehabbing. But when the market came about in 2008 and I knew I was going to hold this house a long time if I rehabbed it, I just decided to call somebody in my local REIA group and ask, would you like to buy this house? And they went, sure. And that's exactly how I became wholesaler. But it's different in that I think you should wholesale no matter what your strategy is, because if you're doing marketing like you should, getting leads in the door, you're inevitably going to get some that aren't a fit for your business. Maybe you don't rehab those type of houses, or you don't hold property in those areas. And what you do then is you wholesale those properties for chunks of cash, and you can have a little bank account that when something goes south on your rehab, or you can pay off your rentals. So I don't look at it just as a separate strategy, but as an integral part of real estate investing.
Okay. Now, when you say leads, you mean like people come, agents or sellers come to you asking if you want to buy the house?
Well, I do a lot of marketing. So I market a lot for off-market deals, probates, absentee owners, things that you can only get through direct mail. Okay. So those people, so I do things to get people to call me to say, come buy my house.
Okay. So take us through that process of wholesaling a little bit. What are some of the tips an investor can use to be successful?
Well, I think you always have to be upfront and honest. And when you're looking at a house, you have to have the full intention of closing on it. Now, I have a contract that says house is subject to partner approval. My partner is always going to be my money partner. So, I don't have case. I always close on the properties, but that is kind of your worst case scenario if it doesn't work out. So I just go and put a house under contract, strike a deal with the seller. And then this is the point you need to understand. You don't have the right to sell a house you don't own, but you have a right to sell the contract. Okay. So in my case, most of mine are probate deals. So the house will be vacant. At the time I go to the house, I ask permission to put a lockbox on the house. I tell them that I'm going to have contractors in to give me bids, that my money partner is going to want to look at the house. Is that okay with them? I get it in the contract. They say yes. And then I have just a handful, 4 or 5 buyers that buy all my deals. I've known them for a decade. I know they're going to be safe to let in the house. So they just go look at the house. They call me from the house. And because I know my buyers well, they'll almost always say, yep, I'll buy it. Send me a contract later. And I'll say, okay. And then before the closing, they'll go back and check the house. And they even get my lockbox and bring it to closing. So usually I make one trip to the property. That's it.
Wow. So backing up. So wholesaling is just you're finding houses that are potentially for sale, maybe not even on the market yet, but potentially for sale. You're contracting to buy the house from the owner, and then without actually taking possession, you've got that contract. Then you're trying to find a buyer to buy that contract off of you. For obviously, the profit, the difference.
For profit. And in Kentucky, I shoot to double close everything. So I do a simultaneous closing. What that means is, and it's all about the order of the paperwork. So we actually sign the paperwork for the B2C, which is when I sell the property. Then we go in the other room and I sign the paperwork to buy the house. Now, you know how closings work. Your end buyer brings a certified check, so you know the closing attorney knows the money is there.
Sure.
Then we actually buy the property. He cuts the checks, they leave, and then I go back in the other room. I get my check, and then I get the lockbox.
Wow.
And it's all over in 20, 30 minutes.
Wow. So how long are these contracts usually in force for? I mean, what happens if you can't find a buyer? I mean, well, I know you said you have people that typically buy your houses, but what can somebody do to make sure that they can find a buyer and not be stuck with a buy and hold?
With having to close. Well, worst case scenario, if I could never find a buyer, then I would find the money and I would close because I want to be honorable to that seller.
Okay.
But that doesn't happen. I have to tell you, if you bought the house right, if you really have a good deal, this is the kicker. And this is where a lot of new investors get in there and they get in bidding wars and they pay too much. And then the end buyer goes, I'm not buying that house. You paid too much. So that's the real key, is to buy the house right. Okay. If you have a house that is a good deal, you can go to your local real estate investors club and you can sell that house, guaranteed.
Okay. So it takes a little bit more planning, I think, than typical other real estate investing strategies. How long does that contract? How long do you usually contract for on the seller? Do you say, okay, I'll close on this house within 3 months or?
No, 30. Oh no, they won't do it. They 30 days max. But okay. I tell them my goal is to close in 10 days or 2 weeks.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it really can happen that fast because bear in mind, I'm only selling to a cash buyer. So I'm always selling to an investor. Nobody's getting a mortgage when you're wholesaling a house. So I have cash buyers, and by a cash buyer, I have a guy who actually writes checks. He's older. So a cash buyer could be they have a line of credit with an investor-friendly bank. It could be they have a home equity line. It could be a cash-like buyer. So let's say that they use an investor-friendly bank, and they're always going to be small banks in your area. They're never going to be Wells Fargo or PNC. They're going to be small local banks. What happens in a regular traditional real estate deal is an appraiser might not come out for weeks or months. Mm-hmm. But with these banks, they'll have an appraiser out there in a couple of days, and you can close in 2 weeks easily with an investor-friendly bank. It all happens real fast.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So what are some of the risks of wholesaling real estate? What are some of the things that people need to watch for and try to avoid?
The only thing is paying too much for the house, because then you won't be able to sell it. Real estate investors are a savvy bunch, and the real estate investors I have on my list, I have to know what the offer is, which means I have to know what the repairs are going to be. So you have to be knowledgeable in that, just like a rehab. So I do complete rehab numbers to know how to make the offer, and then I back out what I want to make. A good wholesaler can make $10,000 in an area like mine. If you're in Southern California, that might be $40,000. But in a normal area, $10,000 is not too much to think you might make on a deal. But the risk is that you're going to pay too much for the house, because you're not going to have any trouble selling it if it's a deal. And here's the thing I want to drive home. You don't need 1 million buyers. You don't want to run ads on Craigslist. You want to go to your investors meeting or reach out to investors that are rehabbers. My end buyer is always a rehabber or a landlord, okay. One or the other. Okay. So you're not selling to retail buyers.
Yeah. No, it sounds like it would obviously be really helpful if somebody had either a background in real estate or tried some of those other strategies for a little bit, rehabbing or flipping or even a rental, just to get a feel for the market, understand from the investor's perspective what investors are willing to pay.
I think it's hard to start out as a wholesaler, because you don't know if you've been rehabbing or you've been a buy and hold landlord. You get to a point where you can look at a kitchen and go, well, it's a rental house, it's $5,000. But in the beginning, you have to go out and learn how much do cabinets cost, how much do all these things cost. I would call the HVAC people in my RIA group and go, okay, how much is a furnace for a 1,200 square foot ranch with a basement? And they would tell me. Over time, you learn those things, but yeah, you don't really know those things. So it is a strategy where you don't need cash or credit as long as you can double close, or you can assign the contract if you're in New Jersey where it costs you $8,000 in property taxes.
Wow.
But in my area, it cost me $350 extra to double close. It's nice and clean and over, and I like it.
Yeah, no cash, no credit for a real estate strategy is amazing.
It's amazing, and it really is true. Now, I want to back that up with saying, when I say you have to have marketing to get deals. So I know people that successfully drive for dollars. That's pretty much no money. If you're doing most marketing strategies, like a website's going to cost you some money, direct to mail is going to cost you some money. You're going to have to get some marketing in place to get the leads, to get the deals. Yeah. So that's the kicker. In a sense, you can start with no money, but you can't grow and scale or without any money.
Yeah, that marketing is so important. Something we talked with Chad Carson of his Coach Carson about how he walks the neighborhood and looking for deals. But yeah, you've got that direct mail. You've got a website. You need to be able to find really good deals. Sounds like. So how much can someone realistically make with wholesaling real estate? I know you talked about $8,000 to $10,000. Is this something that someone can do as a part-time side hustle?
You can. It's all about the marketing. So if you think about the marketing today, you're going to need to talk to about 20 people to look at 3 or 4 houses to get a deal. That's kind of a rough formula. Okay. It's not an exact science. So to get those 20 calls, you're only getting about a 1% to 2% return on direct mail. So you're going to have to do 1,000, 2,000 pieces of mail a month, or you're going to have to do a combination of, I'm not cold calling anybody. You can cold call people. You can drive for dollars. You should really have 3 to 5 strategies or ways of getting deals. So that way, not all your eggs are in one basket like direct mail. But yes, you can let's say you can close 1 deal a month and you're spending $1,000 eventually on marketing and you're making $10,000. That's $9,000 profit. You can easily build a 6-figure business if your marketing is right. And that's the piece.
Certainly. Wow. So okay. So wrapping that up, what are 3 things an investor needs to get started wholesaling real estate? It sounds like one of them would be a good marketing funnel where they have a couple of different marketing ideas that bring potential properties into their funnel. But 3 things they need to remember to be successful.
Well, marketing is the big thing. If you don't market, don't get any leads. And your branding is important. Your marketing is how you get leads, but branding is why they choose you. Okay. So that's important. But consistency, you got to be consistent with whatever you're doing. That's where people fall down. They do a little marketing, then they get a deal, then they stop, then they start. So, and you live and die by your reputation in this business. So do what you say you're going to do. That was really 4 things.
Okay, excellent. Wow, some great ideas, great information. I want to thank our guest, Sharon Vornholt, for her insight into real estate wholesaling. Be sure to check out her blog at LouisvilleGalsRealEstateBlog.com and her podcast, Let's Talk Real Estate Investing. So I'll leave a link to both of those in the description. If you want to keep getting great interviews and great ideas for beating debt, making more money, and just making your money work for you, don't forget to click on that subscribe button and join the community. If you've got a question for Sharon or for myself, ask it in the comments below and we'll make sure you get an answer.